Well, thank you for staying with us. Now, before we head to the Wejateteku area, we're back in the studio and we're talking about the Ghana National Fire Service. Of course, in a way, they're going to be telling us about some activities they have lined up in the coming days and weeks, but we'll also be celebrating them, of course, for the wonderful work they do for Mother Ghana. Now, joining us in the studio, we have ACFO 1 Timothy Osafo Efum, Director Public Relations at the Ghana National Fire Service. Timothy, a very good morning to you.
Welcome.
We also have ADO 2 Alex King Nate, Public Relations Department of the Ghana National Fire Service. He joins us for this conversation. Alex, a very good morning to you as well.
Glad to be here.
Okay. So I know your titles have meanings. I would like you to share with ordinary Ghanaians, those who are watching us. Is it Assistant Chief Fire Officer? Is that
Yes,
it?
please.
Okay, so I got that one right. And then ADO, you would have to explain that one.
I thought you guessed that one. It's Assistant Divisional Officer.
Assistant Divisional
I
Officer.
have a lot of steps to catch up with my boss.
Before you catch up, I will. But that's why you're there, and so hopefully you do get in.
Amen.
Let's start off with this little scenario, even before we talk about what you do. I was sharing that with you before we came on air, and out of curiosity, so I don't forget. Recently, somewhere on social media, I think it was Facebook, I was watching not a movie, but a short clip, and there were some firefighters combating a fire, and then one of them sort of was screaming that he was on fire, but you could not see any fire on him. So I think the team leader then asked that lights be turned off, and suddenly they could see a certain blue flame in the area and on the firefighter. What was that? Can you elaborate for us so we'll be conscious of the fact that maybe these also exist?
Thank you very much. I think some fires burn without flames. Others too burn with flames, but the flames are invisible to the naked eye. So normally it is when the fire has gone to a certain point that the naked eye can see. For example, if a metal is rusting, that metal is on fire. But to the naked eye, you cannot see the metal burning. And so these are the explanation that I can give for now. Very simple one.
So you mean when you see a metal that is corroding or rusting, is it oxidation
yes,
that they call it?
Exactly.
It's on fire, literally.
It's on fire. It's on fire, basically.
Well, we've learned something new. Most definitely. Thank you so much for that very concise explanation that you've given us. But the Ghana National Fire Service has come a long way, and on May Day, of course, we celebrated all workers. How far would you say the Ghana National Fire Service has come? Again, I'll start with you before I go to your colleague.
The Ghana National Fire Service has come very far. You agree with me that not all institutions, when established, gets to this level. We are 60 years this year since our establishment in 1963. And so we are exactly 60 years this year. So we are celebrating this year, and we are going to launch our 60th anniversary on the Firefighters Day. That is on the 4th of May.
Okay.
We have significantly decided to launch our anniversary on that particular day because of the essence of that day to every firefighter in the world. And so, specifically, if you look at the Ghana National Fire Service, I know around 1982, 83, you may be around then. If you were around, but maybe you were a small boy.
I was around.
Yes.
I was just smiling because I was very...
If we can cast our minds back, this nation was devastated by fires, wildfires, or what we call here bushfires, consuming our vegetation, plantation, food crops, etc., etc. And it is through the efforts of the Ghana National Fire Service that Ghana was able to overcome this particular challenge. And so if this country has progressed this far, then we must give some thanks to the Ghana National Fire Service.
What else would you add on that? And maybe to add to what you're going to say, we've seen that in recent years, there have been concerns with major fires. I think one of them we saw recently at the Ketia market, huge establishments getting gutted by fire, high-rise buildings in Accra Central getting gutted by fire. We've had banks falling victim. I think at a point there was even some talk about not putting up buildings beyond a certain number of floors and all of that. So you can also chip in if you have anything to add, and then we can segue into what that has been like.
Okay, so I would want to clarify again that people normally limit our mandate to firefighting only. But then we go beyond firefighting. We do what we call extrication or road traffic coalition. Whenever there's an accident and people are trapped, we are the first respondents. We have the specialized tools and equipment to cut and extricate and rescue people. Whenever there's also a building collapse, it falls within our mandate. And in relation to that, just yesterday, there was a building collapse yesterday at Medina, Adenta, where one person died. We were able to rescue the rest, with some injuries, and then the rest also were rescued without any injuries. So apart from firefighting, our mandate goes beyond that. And over the years, the fire service has come through, performing these important mandates, serving the nation and bringing the nation to where we are currently. Okay.
Then on the bit about the incidents of fires that we have had, I don't know whether it is because there was quite a spike some years back. I think it has fallen a bit. But what is the real status of that? And are people being more compliant? I mean, I've covered stories where you go to markets and they are cooking in the markets. They're using gas cylinders and the rest. Next thing you know, there's a fire. There's the bit about illegal connections, electrical connections. What is the situation?
Well, thank you very much. Fire incidents is an indication of development.
Okay.
But in our situation, a rise in fire incidents may not necessarily indicate development.
Okay.
Now, it is a mark of development because where human activities spikes, be expecting fire incidents to also spike. However, our situation is mostly as a result of carelessness. People don't care as to what their actions will result into. And so most of the incidents we record here are as a result of carelessness. Like you said, in the recent past, fire incidents are coming down per our statistics. For example, for the first quarter of this year, we made a reduction of about 15% over that of last year, indicating that the fire incidents are coming down. However, that is not to say that as a service, we should relax on our ears. What we are doing is that there are still a lot more incidents that should be prevented, incidents that shouldn't happen, and those are our focus, especially those that occur in slum areas. These are the most vulnerable.
One we saw recently, we saw one in the Aveno area, raised
down
a number.
Exactly. These are the most vulnerable in society. And so our aim is to protect such people. However, no matter the education that we give them, you still have these incidents occurring. So as a service, we have developed a communication system where we are involving their leaders in giving out the education. And it is our hope that once their leaders are involved in giving them this safety education, they will be able to adhere in order to reduce such incidents in such areas.
And of course, that is the hope. But sometimes, try as you may, especially in some markets, and I don't want to mention any specific market. I mean, there are instances where we have gone to the same place has got burnt a number of times within a few years. Sure. And you go there and it's the same issues. So that becomes pretty problematic. But in terms of the work that you do, you say that the incidents of fire are going down, which is a good signal. But we also realize that sometimes you have the problem of prank calls. People call you and they are false alarms. How are you dealing with that?
Well, we are currently in talks with the key stakeholders in terms of communication, the national security outfits, to be able to come up with ways to track and better deal with them. What we always implore people to remember and to bear in mind is that, you see, just like your phone, when you place a call and there's someone calling you, until the person gets off the line, you can't pick another call. So people should learn to be each other's keeper. Because mind you, when you are pranking us, then at that point there might be someone who has a legitimate concern or a legitimate emergency that needs to get through to us. But because of the prank calls or because of the prank you are playing on us, you'd end up depriving someone of a much needed emergency, and they would end up putting the blame on fire service. There's no way, we are there to serve people, so there's no way that you'd call the fire service, then we'll deliberately delay or not pick your calls. So it's up to us to be each other's keeper. When you see someone indulging in prank calls or some of these illegalities, please ask them to stop. So that, because if you look on unconcerned, you might end up being affected by yourself.
Two questions I have for both of you. I'll start with you, Alex. So people have complained a lot of the time about your response time. And of course, that also feeds into. So your response time, what are you doing in that regard to better it? A lot of the time we hear members of the fire service say that, no, it depends on, the call came in at this time and maybe this happened and that happened. How are you dealing with the issue of response time, and what logistical constraints do you face as a service? Fire hydrants and the rest, there are so many problems here and there. We know as media people, but from the horse's own mouth, we'd like to hear from you. So two concerns: response time, hydrants, logistics, and all.
Okay, so I would want to go back to say that, our priorities as a nation has so far been on security much more than safety. That's where we find ourselves where we are. It's about time. Everybody tries to ask for their security needs much more than their safety needs. Our fellow security agency sisters, we all work together, but then people always cry for police stations. It's important that when you cry for police stations, cry for fire stations also. Because everybody goes somewhere. We need fire. So when your elected representatives come to you for elections, tell them that until you give us a fire station, we are not voting for you. Most of them go promising police station, forgetting that fire stations are also go hand in hand with the police. So it's about people putting their priorities in place to also prioritize their safety needs. As a service, we are trying our best to close the gap with our response time. We all know the traffic situation in the country. We all know the way people poorly demarcate their homes and even block roads to do parties and funerals. When our appliances get there and they realize that the place is blocked, people are having parties, people are having funerals in the middle of the road. We can't just run over people just because we are attending to a fire. So again, it's attitudinal change of the people. People need to do the right thing. If you need to have a funeral, rent a proper place and without blocking the road, so that when there's a fire, we're able to get access to the roads. Also, when people are building, they leave little or no space for even a small car like a Toyota Matis to go through. How much more a big appliance like our fire tenders? So it's about, we as a service are trying our best. So, for instance, at Ablekuma, for instance, we realized that it's a growing community. So we've set up 2 stations that are waiting for tenders. One at Amomole and one at the Anya market, trying to close the gap because whenever there's
That's a sprawling community. If anything happens, you don't now need to get a tender all the way from a faraway place. By the time you get there,
then it would have happened. So we are trying to close the gap as a people, but I think we'll again call on government. They've done quite enough for the service, but Oliver Trace would ask for more, and would ask that some priorities should be shifted to the safety needs of people, because at the end of the day, the thief will come and then will steal a few things, but the fire wouldn't choose what to steal. It comes and steals whatever it likes, and would even take your life as well.
Over to you, Timothy. He raised an important point I was going to get to. Some places do not even have openings for the fire tender to go through. So that already is a problem. And like we see in some instances where people can, of their own accord, block a road. There's a wedding or something going on, a marriage ceremony, and they blocked off the road. So if someone is having a situation there with a fire, you are now going to have to plead with people to move and all of that. And of course, by which time disaster may have struck. But what are your reactions to the response time and the other issue I raised about logistical constraints?
With the response time, what is happening now is we don't have a lot more, so the two are tied together. We need to open a lot more fire stations. However, you don't just open the fire station. One, you need the premises. Two, you need the equipment. And three, you need the personnel. For personnel, government has done well giving us a lot more personnel. So if you say we want to expand, that shouldn't be a problem. However, we need spaces to build fire stations. As I'm speaking to you, a place like Adwa Safos area, Domekwamenya, we need to establish a fire station there. We don't have. The whole of
you see,
Achimota,
there's none there?
There is none there.
That's a huge area.
The closest is Legon in Medina. Legon campus.
Wow.
And Medina.
I've actually never paid attention to that.
So, you see, the communities themselves must have an edge to have a fire station because you can't continue to allow your property to be burnt by fires. The fire station must be closer to your community. And so, people talk about response time without looking at where the fire station is. If we have to travel through this traffic, through that area, to Atomic area, imagine the time that it will take us to get to that side. And then people start complaining that we called you and it has taken you that long. It is not our making. If the community gives us a land without even building the station, we will find a means of building the station and placing personnel and appliances there so that immediately there is any emergency, we will be able to respond on time.
Is that what you did in the instance? You mentioned that there were some 2 outposts. Is that what you did?
Yes, exactly.
So that one is the community and the assembly that came together to give us those 2 stations.
Okay.
I stated this particular place because for a very long time we have been asking for land to put up a fire station within that community.
That is in Domekwamenya.
And we are not getting results. Now, we should also note that response time also depends on you, the person, or whoever observed an incident. Whenever you call us, we will proceed. I have always been saying that the fireman, yes, we are supposed to respond to emergencies, but we are not magicians to determine whether an emergency has occurred somewhere or not. It is those who observe that emergency that must come to notify us so that we can proceed. So if you waste time, the more time you waste, the more your properties are destroyed by these fires. So I am urging our fellow countrymen, the moment you observe a fire incident, please call the fire service so that we can also be there on time to support and help you. It is not our wish that every time your items are destroyed. When we're able to save life and we save your property, we have some happiness in us. Whenever these things are burnt completely, we don't feel good when we are returning back to our stations. So the communities, every person should help the fire service to help all of us.
And I have actually seen, I think the last time I went to, what's the name of the place? The Central Market where they sell clothes and around the Kantamanto area. The last time I went there, it was so bad. I was literally filled myself with smoke and all of that. And that place has got burnt at least 2 or 3 times since
recent times.
Since that period. No, since I was there.
All right.
Since that period, it has got burnt again about 2 or 3 more times. And I remember looking at the expressions on some firemen and women's faces. It was one of despair, one of we wish we could do more, but disaster had already struck. So I get what you mean. And the logistical constraints are also there. I see you want to add something. Yes. After that, I want you, Timothy, to address the situation of how many, if you know, fire engines or fire tenders do we have? How many more averagely would we need across the length and breadth of the country, depending on population concentrations? Sure. And maybe you could also add, what is the, I do not know this, which is why I'm asking you. I know there's a police to civilian ratio, a nurse to civilian ratio. What is the fireman or firewoman to civilian ratio. Yes.
Okay, so since you mentioned the fact about you seeing firemen being despaired, you see, it's high time people appreciated the efforts, the sacrifices of firemen. Mind you, whenever there's a fire, everyone is Ejao, they're running away. We come in
and you face it.
We're facing it. We go in blind on almost all locations because you go and you hardly even find the owner of the apartment to give you accurate information as to the contents of that particular place. So there might be a cylinder burning, there might be a cylinder heating up to explode. We will know. Our men will go in and poof. It can be an explosion.
And of course, even in fighting the fire, there are different kinds. If it's a chemical, you may need a different approach. Exactly. If it's water, if it's electrical, you may need a different approach.
So that's when people misinterpreted that we come without water, because we don't use water to
fight all kinds of.
Exactly. Yeah. So you see, when our men arrive at a scene, we didn't set a fire, mind you. You know, it's probably your negligence or a mistake that set a fire. Our men come in to salvage. So instead of hooting at our men, why don't you encourage them? When I go to fire scenes and I see people handing out water to our men to help them cool off, it warms my heart, because who doesn't like to be pampered? Yeah. Who doesn't like to be appreciated? Yeah. So instead of hooting at firemen, instead of victimizing them as if they came to set the fire at your place, please support the firemen, because we don't take pride in, as my boss said, we don't take pride in coming to see your placement. We come and then at the peril of our lives. There was one such incident at Adabraka, where I was driving past Adabraka and I saw people running. So when I got there, there was under fireman over there, and there was a gas that was leaking. Believe it or not, myself and the other fireman, we didn't think about our lives. We rather put wet clothes on the cylinder that was leaking, and then we raised it. We were thinking about protecting people and not thinking about our lives. So the two of us carried the cylinder far away from where people are. As we were going, there could have been an explosion. We could have died. Yeah. But we were not thinking about ourselves at that point. We were thinking about the number of people that could have been affected. Yeah. So, and that's how we are wired. That's how we are trained. So please appreciate us so that we can be able to put our lives on the line for you. And
on behalf of Ghanaians, we thank you for the good work you do. Because indeed, that is the situation. In fact, I watched a scene like that somewhere from Asia where a chief fire officer was explaining that situation. A gas cylinder on fire and how to use a wet blanket and all of that. But it's also dangerous because it could explode at any moment. Exactly. And if that happens, it's the fire officer who loses his life.
That owns the cylinder, you are running away. We are now come to find ways to work around it. So you don't attack the fireman. You know, you just appreciate them for their efforts, because see, when our people go on retirement, instead of them enjoying their retirements like everyone does, they spend all their time and money at the hospital because of the kind of
smoke inhalation and all of that.
You know, most of them die even before they go on retirement. Most of them die even if you.
But that also brings to the fore, because yes, sacrifice, you are sacrificing for the nation, but the sacrifice shouldn't get to the point where the work is imperiling your life. So in terms of safety as well, your gear and all of that, because that should always be brought to bear so that while you are exposed, you are still protected to some extent. You brought it up. I want you to take a look at that before. I see Timothy wants to come in.
It's my boss.
Let me explain that even the fire apparel that we wear is not full protect. It doesn't give us full protection.
Right.
There are certain chemicals or emissions that directly goes through into the skin. And so one of the sicknesses that firemen go home with is skin cancer. Because it is not everything that the apparel can screen. Some penetrate and enter into your skin directly. So firemen go home, the minimum is the skin cancer that you get.
That's the minimum?
That's the minimum you get. Like he said, a lot of our colleagues die even before their retirement age. I can give you several examples where our men go to hospital as a result of sickness, and doctor will tell you, if you don't stop smoking, you will die. And the person will be arguing, doctor, I don't smoke. He said, you are a liar. All your lungs are full of smoke. It is because of the job we do. You see, so if people sacrifice like this and Ghanaians don't appreciate, then it becomes something. It means we shouldn't even kill ourselves for Ghanaians. After going through all of this, you go home not peacefully. You go home and every day you are in the hospital taking care of your health. So Ghanaians should appreciate, at least, now that we are celebrating Firefighters Day, just get to your community and say thank you to the firemen who are helping your community to stay alive. This is what we are expecting from you. Just thank you. Don't give them anything. Just go and say thank you for helping our community. And the firemen will be very, very much appreciative of your coming to say thank you for what you have done for them.
Is there anything extra? After all, we all pay taxes so that outfits like yours can get what you need. Is there anything extra that can be done in terms of your outfits or anything to ensure that you are better protected?
Yes, there are several things that we need to get. There are pieces of equipment, like I said, a mission of X-rays and related items. So we have a specific equipment called dosimeter. This dosimeter will tell you the concentration of X-ray or gamma ray or these rays and tell you whether it is safe for you to enter or not. As I speak to you, we don't even have one dosimeter in Ghana.
The whole of Ghana?
The whole of Ghana. Ghana Fire Service. We don't have one.
We don't have even one?
We don't have even
Well, I'm
one.
not surprised because even for breathalyzers, which the police will use to measure the level of someone's alcohol in their body, how many are in the system?
So we just enter and save the situation.
You're basically flying blind.
Exactly.
You don't know what is in there
Exactly.
and you can't gauge.
Exactly.
So a lot of the time, what could have been prevented in terms of injury, you go and face it.
Face it. And the consequence is the long-term effect on your life.
Averagely, do you have any idea? You may not, and I'm not putting you on the spot. Do you have any idea how much this dosimeter or whatever would cost?
In fact, I don't have any idea how much it will cost, but I don't think it's too expensive.
You don't think it's too expensive?
I don't think it's too expensive.
You are one of the top officials at the fire service. You are not the one in charge, but
I understand.
What conversations have been had on that?
This is a large platform, so I can't come and guess once I've not done my research. That is why I say I can't mention any figure here.
No, I wasn't even talking about that. I was saying that, why do you think, after all this while, this from what you've just explained to me, it is crucial. How come?
Very, very important.
How come you're able to say this, but I'm sure there have been conversations that have been had on it.
Yes.
And after 60 years, you still don't have this.
We don't have even a single one. We don't have a single one. You see, the conversation even goes beyond that. We don't have protection for all of our firefighters as I speak to you. What we have is a set for only those who are on duty at a particular point in time. So, for instance, when Katamanto was on fire and we needed more personnel to go, the additional personnel we sent in did not have the fire jacket to go and help. So what you put on is the overall that you have been supplied. So even if the fire jacket cannot prevent such items from entering into your skin, what about the overall? Overall is just like the dress me and you we wear every day.
As someone would say, that's quite a situation. You know, today you're opening my eyes to a lot more. I know of some of these constraints, but now I'm getting to another level of the constraints you face.
Let me chip this in. You see, people always make mockery of some of our appliances. It's their right to. But mind you, see, most of the appliances you see are well over 15 years, between 10 to 15 years old.
Wow.
10 to 15 years old. And you can even go buy a car from, clear a car from the port. You'll be on the motorway and the car will break down. So when we tell people that our appliances have broken down and would have to call for an appliance from another place, people tend to mock at us. People tend to misunderstand when our pumps fail. Every morning our men do routine tests. But just like your car, you can spark your car in the morning, know that it's ready to go. You decide to go to work and it's not working. So when our men get there and then the pump has failed, then they'll be like, we didn't come with water. There's no way we'd move. No one in fire service is an illiterate or an imbecile. Everyone is educated. So you, the ordinary person on the road or on the street, you think you know that we should come with water. So how much more we that have been trained, schooled, and educated in that field?
Right.
So it's not a fair assessment to make when people say, because as you said, there might be a fire that involves electricity. We just can't come and then quickly just open water on
In fact, you
fire.
compound the situation.
Exactly my point. So when we get there, let me cast your mind back to the fire incident near the Vienna City, opposite Vienna City.
Yes, I recall.
It was raining on that day. So if water can quench every fire, why didn't the water quench that fire to avert such a disaster on that day?
Yeah. Good questions. I want us, as we get ready to cap, we have about 4 minutes to play with. I would like us to talk about, there was the question that you didn't get to answer because we moved away, about, so fire hydrants, then fire engines or tenders, availability of them, how many you have, how many more you need, and the fire officer to civilian ratio. If you could quickly address that for us.
So the fire officer to civilian ratio is 1:850. 1:850. As I speak to you now, we should have been 30,000 personnel in the minimum.
So 30,000, you need about 30,000 personnel for a population of about 31 million.
31 million.
Okay.
So as at now, we are a little around less than 15,000. So we need about 15,000 more to be able to meet the UN standard of one fireman to the population.
15,000 more needed.
Exactly. Now, with respect to fire tenders, as I speak to you now, we need a whole complete set of fire tenders for every fire station in Ghana.
Wait, a whole new set
A new set
of fire engines or fire tenders?
Yes, for every station in Ghana.
How many stations do we have?
We presently have 210 fire stations.
And we
It's
need
200
a whole new set.
209. And we need a whole set for every fire station because, like he indicated earlier on, all the appliances are aging now. And that is how come a lot of people mock us, because the appliance will go, they go to the incident scene and it cannot operate. We have to bring in another fire tender to come and support. And you see, it is not the fault of the fireman. The engines are old. On the average, every 5 years, you must replace your fleet of fire tenders. But here we are because of our peculiar situation. So we have given ourselves 10 years. And the fire engines we have in the system are now 15 years. So what do you expect? We are spending much more money into maintenance than any other thing. Because when the fire tenders break down, you can't sit down and say they are old. You need to put them back on the road. And they go 2-3 days, they are off again. So always we spend our resources in maintaining these fire tenders so that we can serve Ghanaians.
That is a stark situation. You are under the Ministry of Interior, right?
Yes.
Interior Ministry.
Yes.
What is the chain? What is the channel in terms of addressing some of these challenges?
So we have a fire service council, and they are supposed to manage our affairs. So if it is beyond them, then it goes to the minister. If it is beyond the minister, then it goes to the
It is
cabinet.
obviously beyond you now. So has it got to the minister?
It has gotten to the minister. The good news is that we are in the process of acquiring new fire tenders.
How many are we looking at?
We are looking at about 240. Not only fire tenders, but other ancillary equipment and appliances that we need for our job. So in total, we are looking at around 250 appliances that should come in.
Any
reactions on that before I go to my next question?
Okay, so we see as a service, we understand that when people's things are getting bent, the grief that they go through, we understand them. That's why we are trained to be tolerant. So we go and then we tolerate it to
I know sometimes people even attack you.
Exactly. You see, we tolerate it to a certain level, but then people shouldn't misunderstand that to mean that we are weak. Because when we come and we feel like the threat or the attack is life-threatening, we'll go. And you fight the fire yourself. So please, when our men come to fight the fire, would appeal that the way people call for, more support, more logistical infrastructure or more logistical investments for our sister agencies, they should try and do same for the fire service so that at the end of the day we can serve them better.
All right. Let's talk now about May the 4th, Firefighters Day. What can we expect from you? You're marking what, 60 years
60
this
years,
year?
Yes.
What can we expect from the Ghana National Fire Service on a day like that? And after that, I feel it would be remiss on my part if I let you guys go without leaving us with some fire safety tips. So we'll do that at the tail end after you tell us about the plan for the 4th of May.
So on the 4th of May, actually activities started yesterday.
Okay.
We had fire safety education campaigns throughout the country. Today we are continuing with the fire safety and campaign activities. It takes different forms in different regions. You look at your environment and come up with a program to suit that one. So apart from visiting our communities for fire safety education, we also have open day where we open our doors to the general public to come in and look at what equipment and appliances we use to come and support you. So that if you have questions to ask, you ask, and then we explain to you. Then also on the D-Day, that is climaxing the Firefighters Day on Thursday, 4th May, we have what we call memorial service for those who lost their lives in the line of duty. And then also award those whose sacrifices have made all of us safe here. So we have specific individuals, firefighters, that we are going to award on that day. So we are going to recognize firemen as well as to recognize those whose sacrifices have made them take the lead to the Almighty God. And so on that day, this is what we are going to do. And then on Friday, we continue with some of the activities to touch base with those that we could not get to during yesterday to Thursday.
Okay. Interestingly, on the back of memorializing or remembering some of your officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty, I have one, Nana, okay, I don't want to mention the name, just so, but he says, it was sad for my doctor to tell me to stop smoking, like one of you mentioned. In fact, my mom nearly wrote my resignation letter for me. That's what he is sharing. And I mean, if you have a child who is going through all of this, knowing very well that these could have health implications, you would be concerned. And let me also mention this one from Oladipupo Oluwaseun Bukola. You say, good morning, well done from Baremu, Ibadan. That's interesting, watching all the way from Nigeria. So here's what we're going to do. We're activating the phone lines, 0302. The phone line will be at the bottom of your screen. This happens from time to time. When the phone line comes, I'll hazard another guess. So just give us a call and let us know what your thoughts are. If you have any thank yous for the Ghana National Fire Service as well, we'd be glad to have you share those thank yous with them, and then we'll cap off the conversation. So you can call 0302-211-691, 0302-211-691. Okay. So any other words on the 4th of May before we take the tips?
Okay, so the memorial, as my boss said, we've lost some very good men in the line of fire. Most recently, one of our gallant firefighters from the central region, there were about 2 or 3 people trapped in a well. He was able to get them out, but he died. He gave his life. And mind you, he has children. He has children.
What happens in such instances? I know insurance and all of that, but what does the state do? What happens?
Well, as you said, some compensation, but no compensation is greater enough to compensate for the loss like that. Recently, 2 or 3 of our officers attended an incident at Takrady.
So I'll just have to hold you briefly because you spoke about Dome Kwabenya. Yes. We have Inusa calling from Kwabenya. I want to hear what he has to say. Oh, it's Somanya rather. Okay, so Inusa, good morning.
Yeah, Idrisu rather.
Idrisu?
Yeah, Idrisu.
Sorry for the mix-up. What are your thoughts, Idrisu?
Yeah, all I want to say is thank you for all their services in Ghana, and I really appreciate them. Thank you very much, Ghana National Fire Service.
Thank you so much, Idrisu. if we do this more, it will also ginger them. I'm sure the salary, you see them laughing. But if we do this, then they know that it's well worth it. 0302-211-691 is the number to call. Yes.
Okay, so about 3 of our men attended an incident in Takrady. The building collapsed on them. We had to fly one straight from Takrady to 37 Hospital for urgent medical care. We had one of our recruits firemen, before you go for training, you are on attachment. At Obuasi, the car had an accident. He died even before he could wear the uniform. So you can imagine that, those who are even yet to join the service go through a lot of sacrifice and life-threatening conditions. How much more those who are actively serving and even serve all through to retirement?
We have a caller from Dunkwao. What's the name, please?
I'm Vincent.
Vincent, what are your comments for our fire officers?
Okay, I want to show my appreciation to men who are fighting for our well-being. I want to say that God richly bless them for all that they are doing for our mother Ghana and for especially our brothers and sisters who go through hard times when there is fire outbreak. God bless them. I know they say teachers' rewards are in heaven. Dears are also there. So they should also work
Vincent, that's an interesting one. He says your reward is in heaven, but I'm sure you would like part of it here.
Sure.
We are facing the hellfire here, so we need.
It's serious. Oh, you are facing hellfire here, so you can't do hell here.
Because we are facing the fire.
I get that point. You can still call. Maybe we can take 1 or 2 more calls and then wrap it up. 0302-211-691. Maybe we can take fire safety tips now, any that you have to share with us.
Yes.
Whether it's at home, whether you are using a gas cylinder, whatever it is.
So I will start with the gas cylinder. Then I'll touch briefly on electricity. Most of the incidents that normally takes lives and cause a lot of huge injuries are as a result of misuse of gas in the homes.
Okay. I would beg of you to just hold for me. Let me take this last caller and then I will not interrupt you. Is it Ama?
Yes, Ama from Wa.
From Wa? All right. Please go ahead. You're our final caller. Then I'll go to the fire officers.
Yeah, I think I would like to say a very big thank you to the fire officers in your studio. You see, in Ghana, it's like we limited security service to only police and military, and which is very bad. When you go to prison service, their case is worse. But you see firefighters doing all that they can to make sure that life and property are being saved. But we don't regard them. We don't even resource them. No, prison and police, fire service, we don't take good care of them. And I think the government needs to resource these 2 institutions, fire and prison, because they are doing a lot for the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm immensely grateful to all of you who have called this morning for thanking them. I did it on behalf of all of us, but it's good that all of you who have called to appreciate what they do. We salute you. Yes, please go ahead.
So in the home, mostly these are as a result of leakages from the gas cylinder. So once you are home, if you finish cooking, make sure you remove the cylinder head from the cylinder. The next time that you want to cook, you just connect the head to the cylinder, the regulator to the cylinder head, then you can start cooking. Then again, if it is appropriate or possible, ensure that your cylinder is placed outside the kitchen in the open, so that if there is any leakage, the air in the environment can blow the gas leakage away, so that it wouldn't cause any problems. Then, to ensure that you minimize the leakages, once a while, you test your tube. How do you test it? There is a simple way that we do. Just use soapy solution.
Water,
Run it around the tube. If you see any bubbles, then it means your tube is leaking. You must change the tube so that it doesn't bring any problem. Then the last one I'll speak about on the gas is that when you are turning on the gas, make sure that your stove valves are all off. You turn it on from the cylinder, then you strike your matches before you open the stove valve. Okay. If you open before you go and turn it on, Before you come, there is a leakage.
Yeah.
If you don't take time, if you strike the match, you also be part of the fire. Then on electricity, anytime you are stepping out of the home, there are certain equipments that are not supposed to be on for a very long time. It is only when you are in and you want to use, then you turn them on. So equipments like your radio, your television, air conditioning, home theaters, all these fans, all these equipments are not meant to be on forever. Apart from fridges and freezers, these are meant to be on forever because they have what we call thermostat. So they work up to a certain point, they stop. When the temperature increases, they come back and start working. So apart from fridges and freezers, all other equipment must be turned on and unplugged before you leave.
Turned off and
unplugged
right.
before you leave the home.
So interesting thoughts that you've shared with us. I'll just go back to is it the dosometer? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Without the dosometer, any final words, and then we can wrap this conversation.
Well, to reinforce my boss's call for fire stations and support, let me draw a very scary picture for you. Well, if there's any fire at, let's say, Kwabinya or Dome, the nearest appliance will come from Medina or Abilingpe. If there's
as far as Abilingpe.
Exactly. If there's any fire at Santa Maria, imagine the distance from Abilingpe to Santa Maria. That's the appliance that will respond to the fire. There's no single fire station within La Paz.
That's the one around the Perez Dome, far behind the Perez Dome. That's where it will be coming from.
Yes. So imagine there's a fire at Alajo, or there's a fire at Newtown, or there's a fire at Pig Farm. That calls for that appliance to attend to. It means that we'll have to come on Wager, all the way from Wager SCC, to attend to fires at Santa Maria, Sotum, Kwashiman, or Odoko. So please, this should reinforce the calls to have more fire stations. We can't just come as a station that we are taking over your land. Put pressure on your elected representatives. Put pressure on your
members of parliament.
Yes, that if they can making all those promises, tell them that the promises that we need is that give us a fire station to further protect us. And once you do that, you hold on to accounts, and as a service, we would also do our part to hold on to the bargain to protect your lives and properties.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It's you're signaling me. We have really gone out of time.
So just
20 seconds.
Yes. What I want Ghanaians to know is that the fire stations in your community is for you. Own the fire station. Visit the personnel there. Encourage them often. Know their problems so that if you can help them solve. Because they are in your community to help you save your life and protect your properties. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ACFO 1 Timothy Osafo Efum, Director Public Relations at the Ghana National Fire Service. Also joining him, a member of the Public Relations Department of the Ghana National Fire Service, ADO2 Alex King Nate. Gentlemen, we salute you. Thank you so much. Aiko, and God bless you. And we pray you get the logistics you need.